Hello. Azzapp, the #1 Vel'Koz here for a decade pretty much. We're running and we're making a new Vel'Koz item tier list. We're gonna rank all the Vel'Koz items for mid lane today. All of them. Shuffle like in between here and there, all right? When I get in between items, I might like change them in order depending on like some things, but I will mostly try to keep stable. Everfrost not synergizing very well with Vel'Koz. It's only like a reactionary build to something that really engages on your full melee comps that you can play support style too, right? So this gets a B tier. B tier, probably, yes. The counterpart to Sonny! God damn it! Okay, so the counterpart to the Everfrost would be Crown, which is also situational. Super situational. I'd argue it's between A and S tier, honestly, because there are some games where it's absolutely necessary to pick up. But since it doesn't synergize as perfectly with Vel'Koz, synergize decently, I would say it's A tier, but you don't pick it up in many games, like 1 out of 10 games where it's kind of necessary, but then really bangs, okay? So I would say that's A tier. Okay, where are the other mythics? Rocketbelt. Rocketbelt Vel'Koz mid lane, no mana, absolutely shit. It can only work if you pair it up with an early tier, and even then it's very sussy. The dash on Vel'Koz is alright. I'll give it a C. I'll give it a C. Other mythics, Luden's gets an A. Luden synergizes extremely well. It's really good. Synergizes well, but not quite perfectly because it has that magic penetration, and that's not the perfect thing with Vel'Koz. It's definitely not an S tier. It's good when you want to run the burst build. Yeah, I would put it there as Crown because it's, again, very situational. It will not be the #1 item for Vel'Koz. It's situational to the point where enemies don't have that much MR. That's when you run it. Now, Liandry's. Liandry's is an item where Vel'Koz can build no matter what. Vel'Koz AP carry, support, mid, top, jungle, doesn't fucking matter. You can go pen build, CDR build, doesn't matter. You can go tank or pure glass cannon, doesn't matter. Liandry's is S tier on Vel'Koz. Hyper good synergy. It works always, no matter what. You just can't go wrong with this item, and this is probably the best Vel'Koz item, apart from one, which you're gonna see later. Night Harvester. Night Harvester mythic. Night Harvester mythic. It's F. You guys know I love Night Harvester, but on mid lane, it's just pure F. Useless after 20 minutes, as a TikTok comments say. Absolute dog shit garbage. Never build it on mid lane. Rod of Ages on Vel'Koz. I wouldn't say it's as good as Luden's or Crown, because they're way more direct. Rod is fairly good scaling option, but the fact that you don't require that much AP on Vel'Koz, or that much HP, you don't really utilize full extent of the numbers, right? You don't utilize that amount of mana, you don't utilize that amount of HP, really. To utilize the mana, you have to pair it up with Archangel, but that's, again, suboptimal. So yeah, I don't think it's that good. Okay, so Imperial Mandate, I'm gonna give it D, specifically because it's cheap. Vel'Koz loves cheap items, and he gets a D for this. It's not that terrible, actually. You can run it, and it'll be alright. I think we're gonna do it like this. That seems alright. Heartsteel, D, can work in very specific builds. Suboptimal, to say the least. Shurelya. Shurelya is actually not terrible. Shurelya is not terrible. I'd say C. Just for the, like, it's cheap and it benefits your team. Riftmaker is a D. It's pretty garbage. Pretty garbage item. No very good synergies with Vel'Koz, really, and you don't get mana. Okay, I think that's all the mythics. That should be all the mythics. So now we're just gonna go buy the items when I see them, right? Archangel. Archangel should go to like B tier. It gives AP now, so it's fixed. Like the old one would be like D tier probably. And the fact that it gives shield, it's actually not bad, honestly. The issue is like you don't really get that many situations where you can run this item because it takes a very long time, and usually there are better options with the Vel'Koz. We got Cosmic Drive. Cosmic Drive goes into D. Cosmic Drive is mostly a bait item for Vel'Koz. Actually, we're gonna put it at C. It's mostly bait, gives you some CDR. It's alright, but I don't really know if it does that much. Again, the only issue with this item is you only have 6 slots. If you have like 8 item slots, this could be a decent item. The fact that you have 6, it really limits you. They shuffled now more into AP, but the issue is with it's Phase Rush Light, and Phase Rush doesn't work with Vel'Koz very well because Vel'Koz kites very well anyway. If you land your stuff, you don't need movement speed because you're most likely ulting after, or you're surviving. So the fact that you get this movement speed can only be useful in like a combo and then re-engage, which is just almost never gonna happen. So I don't really see huge value in this. And again, they're way better items. Banshees. I love Banshees on Vel'Koz. The only issue is defensive item. I hate defensive items. They kills your momentum in solo queue because you really wanna do as much as possible. But Banshees is as mild as a defensive item as it gets because it doesn't really hinder you too much. Unlike Zhonya, so you don't have to be stationary to utilize it. You can play aggressive, you can do stuff proactively, and it will save you from an enemy engage. So I really love Banshees. I think I'll put it an A. Super good. Now that we started like this, I need more of these. That goes F, I think. That goes F. Demonic Embrace goes C. Demonic Embrace is Liandry's little slow brother. It does less things than Liandry's. It's a bait item on Vel'Koz, usually. Because people are like, oh, I got Liandry's, I'm burning, it works so well. Demonic has to work so well as well because I'm burning. You know, it's just the value of this is only good if the enemies have like 4 tanks plus, right? You need 4 or 5 enemy tanks in order to utilize this efficiently. So it's really not that good. Really not that great. I like Anathemas. Anathemas on Vel'Koz is kind of good. I'm gonna put it as A just because it's super situational and you don't build it always because you're not a moron, right? If you go across average, it's pretty garbage, right? But if you put it on rare cases where enemies have 1 hyper carry and you're Vel'Koz, this gives you so much utility. You scale off of levels incredibly well, so as long as you have 1 or 2 good damage dealing items, Anathemas is amazing, right? Darksteel S tier, simply, it's one of the best items in the game. If you're not building Darksteel on Vel'Koz, you're trolling, frankly speaking. There's no reason not to build it, honestly. Swifty is good in certain situations. I'm inclined to put it even as A tier if you pick it into comp with a bunch of slows. Like if you're dealing with something like Ash that perpetually slows you and follows you, Swifties can be so incredible, and once again, you don't really need Magic Pen, you don't really need extra damage. So this should be between B and A tier, depending on how well you like pick it, I guess. But yeah, definitely like that item. I love Horizon Focus, man. I absolutely love Horizon Focus. It's such a cool item. It's not the item that I designed it to be, right? I did like my version of the item just in a light way. I wish they did it slightly better, but the synergy of this item with Vel'Koz is so tremendous. The fact that tapping enemies with Q and R long range gives you vision is so underrated. It gives you so much value. The vision alone. Hyper Shot, the passive of Horizon Focus, is the only ability in the entire game that enhances true damage, unless it's bugged. Sometimes it's been bugged, sometimes it's not, so we don't actually know. In case it's not bugged, amplifying 10% true damage, it would be S tier. So there's that. The rest is on Riot, guys. CDR boots, perfect synergy with Vel'Koz, just like Liandry's. No matter the game, you will always want this. It's so good, unless in specific builds where you really want to go penetration. Absolutely superb item. Lich Bane, I'm gonna put it at C. It seems like a shit item for Vel'Koz, but it gives movement speed, and movement speed on Vel'Koz is pretty damn good. You know, it's alright. Not a troll item. Mejai is the item that has absolutely perfect synergy with Vel'Koz. Once again, in solo queue, if you're not building Mejai like at least like 1/3 or 1/4 of your games, especially in low elo, in like 1/2 of the games or even every game, you're probably trolling. You want this item on your Vel'Koz almost at all times. No matter what, Darksteel and Mejai, even if you're a shit player and you're like, oh, I can't keep the stacks, buy it. If anything, this is the great teacher of how to play correctly this role. These are the 2 items that are so perfect for artillery mages because they teach you how to play the role properly. Don't die! Rule number 1. And scale and stack and do damage from behind. So that's how you play that. Incredible stuff. Nashor Tooth, D tier. Not absolutely useless. Got some value. Some merit. Rabadon Deathcap. El Sombrero Mortfero de Rabadon. Shapka Smerti, you know? It goes to A. It's a really good item. Again, not infinitely perfect synergy. Vel'Koz is not the absolute necessity of a Deathcap character, right? And Vel'Koz is one of the rare mages that can go and afford to go 3 items and not build Deathcap, right? In most mages, 3rd item has to be Deathcap. That's just how the math works. So when you play Veigar, Deathcap should be 2nd. When you play regular mages, Deathcap should be 3rd. On Vel'Koz, it should be either 3rd or 4th, depending on the situation. So I love Deathcap, especially in the pubs. On the 3rd, you have good synergy. When you get it 3rd, it's about 30-ish minutes. Then you get the Gathering Storm proc as well, and it just skyrockets. Incredible tool to prolong your mid-game power spike, right? Because when Vel'Koz enters mid-game, it has to do with the weird curve that Vel'Koz has. He's weak early, weak late, but strong mid-game. So once you get 1 item, 2 items, level 13, those are the spikes, which is exactly why you don't need Deathcap early. You can buy cheaper items and still spike up insanely. And during that mid-game spike, you're gonna pop off, carry your team, win the dragons, win teamfights, get fed, and then use that feed to get Deathcap. And then Deathcap is gonna prolong your mid-game power spike into the late game very well. So it's a perfect bridge item for that. So it is A tier, not quite S tier, like an absolute necessity, but yeah, it's pretty good. Gargoyle Stoneplate C. I like Gargoyle Stoneplate. It's pretty solid, you know. The defensive item, it's alright. A lot of the items give you, because Riot can't design items, a lot of mage items give you HP anyway, so getting Gargoyle is fairly good to save you, you know. Shadowflame, very, very contested item. I will put Shadowflame on A. It's a very good mage item, synergized fairly well. It's good for stack and penetration, obviously. It's a counterpart to Horizon Focus, but then again, just like Luden's to Liandry's, just like Shadowflame to Horizon Focus, and Lucidity boots to Sorcerer Shoes. Shoes, it loses out by a little bit to the counterpart. Where are the Sorcerer Shoes? Oh my god. Shit, I'm blind. I'm actually... Oh, never mind. I am blind. So just like Sorcerer Shoes, buying Magic Penetration a little bit suboptimal to Vel'Koz and lose out to these items for sure. So this is consistency, quality, always. This is situational. But when you pick it right, it's very good. I love these boots, honestly. Getting magical footwear is so godlike for Vel'Koz. Underrated value is like, first of all, you get easier to mid-game, so you save more money to get like... So you get like item spikes, right? The way mythic items work, or the new item... Well, new for a couple of years already, but the way mythic patterns work, even before completing items gives you like a spike, and that's what competitive revolves around, right? You want to play around spikes, but even with the mythics, especially, those spikes are significantly amplified. So the fact that you can buy your items completed earlier by getting free boots is amazing. Also, you get 10 movement speed for free, which is fucking amazing. Rylai is complete F tier, absolute dog shit item. I can't believe how much controversy I see around this item in Vel'Koz community. People are like, oh, let's buy Rylai. It's so good for Vel'Koz. It synergizes. Rylai is a weaker version of Demonic. It's a weaker version of Cosmic Drive, and they're both not that good anyway. Void Staff, super situational. I'm gonna put this B tier. In a lot of games, it's good. In some games, it's like completely trash. The thing is, like, I'm just gonna put it B because it doesn't have flat synergy with Vel'Koz, right? Vel'Koz does 25% true damage, which means you only get 75% of the value for Magic Penetration, so it loses out a little bit. That being said, in competitive games, you will need to play Void Staff eventually on Vel'Koz, or in hyper high elo when enemies are really good at stacking MR, or if your comp sucks and you have full magic damage dealers, right? Zhonya is a shit item. It's a trash item. It is a garbage item. I'll put it on C. I hate building this item. It's so bad for solo queue. It kills all of your momentum, everything. Hyper expensive, doesn't yield that much value. The only good thing is a stasis. If you pick right, it can save you in a lot of cases. But you know what it can also save you? Better positioning. So sometimes it pays off to go gradient position better. Some games you really can't do that. They have like Zed, Kiana, Kha'Zix and stuff, and your team is good with damage and they're specifically focusing you, so you buy Zhonyas and then buy time for your team so they can clean them up. Otherwise, it's probably a shit item, honestly. If anything, you're gonna go like 5 items and get stopwatch 6th item and then play the late game team fight. That's again high elo strat. Buying this item completely is just so bad. Morello is such a weird item. I don't fucking know what's right doing with Morello. Morello is so weird. Look at the conundrum with the Morello. You have the item that's anti-heal. When do you build anti-heal? Is when you're getting Liandrys, because Liandry amplifies anti-heal by extra 4 seconds. So instead of 3, it lasts 7, right? So you want to pair that with Liandrys. Liandrys doesn't give pen, but this now gives pen. This is anti-tank, but this is anti-healing. What? But it's also anti-squishy. Which squishy heals that much? Only 80 carries. It's like such a weirdly designed item. It's so bad, honestly. It's incongruent with its own build. Like, the item is just pulling multiple threads. So it will never have perfect synergy. No matter the game, it will never have perfect synergy. If you're playing versus Mundo, I guess you can go Liandry paired up into this. But even then, you get pen. Why do you need pen versus Mundo is 200 MR? Super situational only versus like a lot of healing like Vladimir, Soraka, stuff like that. I'll put in B tier. It's so weird. Like you will rarely go full pen build and then go anti-heal. I just hate the item. I just hate the way they design. I'll put C. Fuck that item. Tenacity boots, really not that good. You'll rarely use them. Because if they have hyper CC in mid jungle, you're probably gonna go cleanse anyway. So going this is kind of superfluous. It's just not good. Pinkward S tier. Buy Pinkwards, kids. Pinkwards are the key to picking people off as Vel'Koz. You really need to have those items. Try to buy a lot of Pinkwards. The way you can control mid lane with Pinkwards is phenomenal because you have too many tactics. The mid lane has like 3 barriers, right? The entry barrier, the river, and then it's like the enemy barrier, right? So you buy Pinkward, you place it on one side, you place the yellow on the other side, and you're fishing. You just put in the fucking hook and reel them in when they come in. Vision is key. Knowing they don't even see you is even more key, and that's just how you control the map as Vel'Koz. You can create so much prio which is very intangible. You won't notice it that much, but enemies will certainly feel it. The way they are constricted in their movement and playstyle, which will give you numerous dragons, opportunities, pickoffs, and everything. So Pinkwards and vision control is super good. Scryer's Bloom, is that the name? It's pretty good for uncovering stuff, especially because you don't have a face check. The thing is, you can do the similar thing with your Q. If you know your angles, you can check most stuff so you don't face check. It's good for late game when you want to control the map. I prefer yellows in solo queue. I think yellows are really good in solo queue. But these rise in value due to Chemtech Soul. Yellows lose value, so, you know, pick and choose. Deadman's goes B tier. Deadman's against full AD comps is actually very good because it gives you movement speed. One key thing with Deadman's when you build it, if they have full AD, you can get that. It's actually better than Zhonya's, okay? No, I'm not joking. This is better than Zhonya's if they're hyper AD. Zhonya's is only useful for stasis. The thing about Deadman's is you can't auto-attack though. If you build this, don't auto-attack because you're utilizing the movement speed at stack. If you auto-attack, you break that. Only auto-attack once the fight is like coming to an end. If the fight's at the beginning, don't auto-attack because the movement speed will help you wiggle out. Play the Steel Cap's a little bit better than Tenacity, but not quite there. Dorans, I mean, you have to buy Dorans. Don't ever start tier. Don't ever start tier. Always start Dorans. Don't be a moron. Elixirs. That's S tier. That's F tier. Like, this one is, I'd say B tier. Decent value. Actually, maybe C tier. I like the size. You grow in size, you know. Stopwatch is awesome. Stopwatch is awesome for outplays. Compiling it to Zhonya's makes it shit. Cookies, I personally don't like cookies. I know Renki ran them yesterday, especially into Cassia, which is shit. Like, I don't like that, honestly. You lose some pressure. Sweeper's good to know you're not warded, but I think you can substitute that with Pinkwards while keeping yellow so you can have you, so you don't depend on your support placing good vision. You can place good vision on your own, so Sweeper's not really good tier. Call Start, pretty garbage. Doran Blade, it's not terrible. Like, you can run that in like Kassadin matchups or something like that. Genuinely like not terrible. Yellows are S tier for solo queue. In competitive I'd put them A tier. I think solo queue they're S tier. Refillable, I don't like refillable. You really won't be trading that much. Only very in some situations you will run it. If it's a hyper poke matchup, like you're playing versus Azir, mid lane is gonna poke you down, right? Otherwise I just really don't like it. Regular boots, A tier, very good. Minion Dematerializer, Vel'Koz has fairly good wave clear anyway, so Dematerializer is B. You will rarely struggle with wave clear, especially if you're going line race. Yeah, that's the tier list. That is the tier list. And to summarize this now, I'm gonna create like the build pattern so this makes a bit more sense, right? So this will be the best overall build that you can run. So you start Dorans. You start Dorans, potions, and then you go into Liandry's. You pair it up with Lucidity boots. You obviously buy Darksteel somewhere in there on one of the first recalls. Then you get Horizon Focus. Then you get the Shapka Smerti. At this point, you're probably selling this bad boy. With the Death Cap, the synergy is tremendous when you get good Mejais. So you definitely want to get that golden book as soon as I can find it. You get that, you replace this. Now, this build is amazing. This is like one of the best builds pass you can run. And the 6th item will be situational. Like, we don't know what you're gonna run here. Enemies have good engage, like a bunch of Asheros, a bunch of like stuff that can hit you and engage on you. Boom, you do this. You can go that situational item. You can go Stopwatch for last game team fight and then build something else, right? Really depends on the scenario. You can go Void Stave, they have a lot of MR. That's a very good option. So these are like finishers. You got Zhonya's, Banshees, Void Staff as finishers. Usually, right? It's just situational, like you get the gist of it. This is the core though. This is the core and best overall build, right? Against no MR. Now, people always ask like, how do you know there is no MR on enemies? Because you're deciding to build at the start of the game. Now, that's a high reload thing, but let's look at some games. Let's look at some games and I'll show you how you figure out there will be no MR. So here, I have Malphite, which means they won't have MR, really, and they don't. Look, they actually don't have MR. But I still opted in for this control because I just wanted a higher hard pressure here because we have hyper carries. So it's like a multiple decision making. Here, look at this game. This game you would never run Luden's build because you know they're gonna have MR. Like you just have to look at the team comps and you know they'll have MR. Not only their champions can build it, they also most likely will. So champions who can build it, Jace can go Maw, she can go Vitsend, she can go Maw. Veigar won't really get it. He can go Banshees, but probably won't. Pike can also go Maw. All of these champions are like, there's two things, like should they build it and can they build it? Some AD carries really can't build MR efficiently, right? Something like Ezreal is garbage if he builds MR. He has no good items for MR. So that's a champion that's very, very suboptimal to build MR. So there are the two questions. Can they build it and should they build it? And versus Archangel, they definitely should. AP damage, a lot of AP, huge amount of AP, decent amount of AP, right? So enemies have to stack MR in this game. And this is the case where I got Void Staff to fix this. Boom, 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 boom. Went with this build, and I went Void Staff to fix the build to do damage. This is a comp you would never run Ludens into. Here we only have Zac. We only have Zac and 3 ADs, like, and even our support is a heavy AD, which means they won't be stacking MR. Look at their comp, 0 MR build. I went hyper carry, like a one-shot build. I won the mid and I won the game because now I can just 100 to 0 them, right? They have a 0 MR. And that's how you know. Should they build it? No. Can they build it? He can and he can. I don't know. Sivir can sometimes, but yeah, that's it. Syndra probably won't do it. So that's how you figure it out. So how would this build go against no MR? How would that build go? You obviously want to go Sorc Shoes. It's about stacking magic penetration because other people like are still confused about this. Like the less MR they have, the more magic pen is valuable. So you would do that and then you would pair it up with our boy Shadowflame. time. So that's the build. And then you go into the sombrero. Then you go into the death cap. Can I duplicate these? No, I can't, right? So then you would go death cap. You would also go Mejai's. Especially in this build, you would go Mejai's early, right? You would go Mejai's early because it synergizes. As soon as you finish Luden's, you get it because it gives you pen. This, and then again, situational item at the end. And then let's give you like a defensive build. Like if you're dealing with something that's sole purpose is to really kill you, you can rush this and then you're super chilling. Now there are two options with this build. You can either rotate into the best overall build or you can rotate into the against no MR. So again, same reasoning applies. If you're going super defensive and enemies won't have any MR, then you just proceed like this. You just do this and now you have a build. Or if enemies have a lot of MR, you need this item to be safe, but they're also tanky, you just do this or this. Those are the two variations. You need to understand the dichotomy of these two builds. And the key point is, and this is like what we even saw watching Balulu LCS gameplay. He went this build, which is ridiculous. Going this is ridiculous. This is garbage. This is a hyper sin here. Like this is sinning. Make sure your build works with itself. Make sure your build has synergy. So if you're committing to these two items, your last one has to be this. Well, not last one, but it has to be that. So that's how you itemize. That's how you shift these itemizations. And that's the Vel'Koz mid lane tier listing guide. If you guys want more educational content and support the channel, check out the Patreon. Amazing stuff. If you have any more questions, comment them below. There you go, guys. Those are the Vel'Koz mid lane builds.